Assalamu alaikum everyone. In today's video, we'll be going through a complete guide about the IBA interview and how to go about it. A bit about myself is that I'm a first year student at IBA. I finished my first year, alhamdulillah, doing BBA. And I gave the IBA interview for BBA twice. And alhamdulillah, I got in both times. And as far as my knowledge goes, every single person I've had personally with the interview through the messages and whatever, all of them have gotten into IBA. So I guess it's safe to say that the tips I have over here for you in this video will be of value if you stick around till the end of it. Alright, so with the first part of the video, the general tips, let's start with number one. That is, don't shake their hand unless it's offered to you. Second point is gonna be smile, for God's sake, please. I know I'm not gonna be smiling as much to this video because we're just talking something straight, but yeah, smiling goes a long way in showing confidence. Don't just have your teeth open all the time, but do have like a bit of a light demeanor. Try to show yourself as not just business. You're not a robot after all, you're a human being. The third point, which is by far my favorite one, is do not write a script, only write bullet points. Why is that? Is because when you write a script and you forget something from it, your confidence is going to shake in seconds, and you cannot afford that when giving an interview. So only keep bullet points for everything. For example, what are my hobbies? Don't say I used to play football doing this, or my extracurriculars, I used to play football, national level, this, that. Like, no. Have bullet points. Football, national level, could be possibly, okay. You did competitions, you did MUNs, whatever they are, have bullet points only on your phone before going for the interview. I'll have some samples on screen. Next, we have confidence. Confidence is everything. This interview is only about two things pretty much. Is to check your confidence and to check your honesty. They're here to see whether you're confident in yourself. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be someone who can speak in front of 200 people. You have to be confident enough in your own abilities, and you need to be honest. They're gonna see right through you if you attempt to lie around this interview or beat around the bush. They'll see right through you. So confidence and honesty go a long way. Next is have a story behind everything you say. Whatever you say, that's the thing. That's why you can't lie, because you need to have a story to back it up. For example, if you said you had a perfume business, so I used to have a perfume business. I mentioned that in my interview. They questioned me about it. Walk us through your perfume business. Why do you close it and stuff like that? So because I had done it, I had the stories behind it to back it up and not come off as a liar. The sixth point is you have to convince them to want to choose you. You have to keep in mind the interview is the last stage to your IBA journey. You've cleared tests now. You've met the criteria. Now is the interview. It's the last step into getting into IBA. These three people seated in front of you are going to decide whether or not you're going to come to IBA or not. So you have to convince them to choose you over the other pool of candidates that are there. And so it's very important to have that in mind, that it's more like a sales thing, not just a personal chat. You're not there for story's sake. You're not there to mess around with them. You're there to convince them that they have to choose you. But you can't seem overconfident either. You have to seem confident but not overconfident. Keep that in mind. The next point is speak in whatever language you were spoken to. But if at any point you feel like your confidence is shaking, switch to a language that you feel most comfortable in. Again, this is an interview about your confidence level, to check that and your honesty. So for example, the interview begins off with a question in Urdu. Go ahead with Urdu, but now they're transferred to English. Different interviews are asking something in English, and now you feel like your confidence is shaking. You're not going to answer as well. You feel like you're stuttering. Switch to Urdu if you're more confident with that. Go switch to it. There's ease in that. They're not going to worry much about it. Next point is know about the degree you are applying to. For example, I gave the interview for BBA. It takes a quick 1 minute, 2 minutes to hop on the website and go through some of the courses that BBA has and the format of the program, pretty much at IBA. Because yes, BBA everywhere will be similar. However, every university has their own different agendas and stuff. Dress, smell, look good. Okay, when you do all of these things, you feel good. And when you feel good, you come off as more confident. You feel more relaxed. Okay, like when you go to a wedding, for example, or anything as such, where you wear clothes that look good on you, and you look good. If you're a girl, you have a makeup on and everything. You feel good. You feel good. You feel like you can take on the world. You can talk better. You can do everything better. So feel good. It's a very big and underrated tip. Trust me. All of these tips, I'm saying them pretty quickly, but they are very heavy and impactful. Now the next tip, which is by far one of the best tips I have given anyone, and one of the best tips I learned. I can't remember where I learned this from. I think so it was from a workshop I attended once. It is that indulge in small talk with literally anyone before you walk into the interview. small talk with anyone. Have that flow of speaking before you walk through that door. Why is that? Because you most likely woke up, got ready, came to university to give the interview, right? You have not gotten into the flow of speaking to a random person. You're gonna stutter, you're gonna freak out. Okay, it might take a bit of time to set in easily. You may not have that time. I know friends that had 3-minute interviews. I got into IBA. I had a 40-minute interview. I got into IBA. You need to get into the flow of speaking, indulge small talk with literally anyone. In the beginning, they're gonna seat you in this room with other kids, okay, like a waiting room sort of. Talk to anyone. Most kids over there are gonna be on their phones. Talk to anyone. No one's gonna know you. No one's gonna care about you later. Like 5 minutes from now, they're gonna forget you existed. Okay, so like don't worry about it. Talk to them, even if it seems awkward. Talk to them. Talk to the janitor that takes you to the room. Okay, talk to anyone. I remember when I went for my second time at IBA to the interview. I was sitting, they took me out from their waiting room and they sat me in front of the room I had to give my interview in. And in the next room, there are different rooms for interviews, right? The next room, they could see a girl was sitting outside as well. So I just looked over at her and I said, nervous. And we had like a very small talk. It was like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Then she went in. Then I spoke to a janitor next to me. 20 seconds more, I went in now to the interview. The next one is link stuff to IBA. What do I mean by that? If you have some extracurricular done, if you have any strengths that you've done, try to find stuff and bring it to IBA, link it to IBA. Okay, for example, if you have a passion for public speaking, you've done MUNs and stuff like that, link it to Public Speaking Society at IBA. If you have the passion for drama, you've done theater or acting, link it to Dramatic Society at IBA. If you have passion for arts, link it to IB Arts Progress Society. Basically, this is going to show them two things. One is that you're well rehearsed for IB, not just some random person that showed up for the interview that your parents forced you to go to. You actually care, you have done your research about IBA. And the next thing is going to show them is that you have stuff to offer. You're not just like every other candidate. Again, they're choosing you over others. So you're showing that to them during your interview. Another one which seems kind of contradicting right now is that have good posture. Sit straight. Not like this, I'm reclining, this, you do not want to do this, but sit straight. And like this, seem a bit relaxed, but don't have like your shoulders dropped down. Don't have your arms like here. Keep them on the armrest. Have your hands up, easy, and shoulders back, chest out. Sit straight. All right. It seems very odd to say, but trust me, you need to do this. Okay. Don't recline back into the seat. Do not cross your legs at all. Don't do anything as such to show them that you have bad posture, that you're some lazy slouch. The next point is more of a speaking skill, but that is look at all of the interviewers when speaking to them. Let's say they ask you a question. Right now, I'm just looking at a camera, right? I only have to look at that one lens. There's going to be 3 people seated in front of you, और आपने अब क्या करना है कि you have to look at each one of them individually. You're not supposed to be speaking like this, keeping and more rotating either आगे पीछे, but the way to do it is going to be that start a sentence at one person, finish it at them, then move to the next person, finish the sentence there, then move to the next person, finish the sentence there. That way you kind of look at everyone like while talking about one specific topic or while answering one question, while at the same time fulfilling their speaking skills and coming off as confident. A next tip is that if you are too afraid to look into their eyes while speaking to them, it's natural, some people have anxiety. It's completely okay to be nervous looking at their eyes. It's an interview, right? But if you are nervous and you feel at some point you're getting nervous or your confidence is shaking, look at this area sort of. This area or like their eyebrows, like right above their eyes, okay, or their forehead, even not like too high up. Look there only at the times that you feel like your confidence is shaking, because it will give the illusion that you're looking at their eyes, but at the same time you will still seem confident and won't have your confidence shake. The next tip is very important because a lot of people mess this up. That is, do not use filler words like or don't say like a million times. Like a lot of people like me, we have this habit of saying like quite frequently. Do not say that. Do not use or ums when you need some time to process something. If you need time, take your time, process it easily. Do not say consistently throughout the interview. Be honest and let them know if you do not know the answer to something. A lot of people mess this up. The interview is to check your honesty. If you don't know the answer to something they asked, or if you can't remember at the moment, say you don't know. It's not that hard. Use hand gestures when speaking to them. You don't want to be a robot. Okay? I said have good posture, so don't just sit like this the entire interview and just sit and keep talking to them. You're not a robot that or a statue whose only mouth moves to speak. Use some level of hand movements. You don't want to go too crazy, too big or anything, but use some level of hand movements to assist what you're saying. Now, if you're someone that hasn't ever used hand movements properly as much, you might be an introvert, you might be someone that doesn't speak as much. A simple tip would be to use hand movements to emphasize what you're saying, like emphasize, prove a point. Um, I had two hobbies when growing up. Like, prove a point, use basic hand movements for simple things that, just emphasizing something good, hobbies, three, four, anything like point numbers, right? You can use basic hand movements. Another tip, which is say you applied to IBA only if you are on a gap year. It is very important to say you applied to IBA only. You can get away with saying you applied somewhere else, but usually they want to see, they want a reason to like you, they want a reason to want you. So you have to show them that yes, you care about IBA so much that you've only applied here, and if you don't get into IBA, you're gonna take another gap year to come back to IBA. You want this, you have to show them that. Alright, I guess that's it for the general tips and guidelines. Now let's move on to dressing guidelines for the interview. Alright, starting off with number one is do not wear a suit. Reason for that is because you do not want to dress better than your interviewer. Alright, so just don't wear a suit. Plus, it's summer right now. As of now, it's summer, so you don't want to seem over the top. Dress formal. You have to wear a dress shirt first of all, with the sleeves full. Do not fold the sleeves. For God's sake, do not fold the sleeves. Now, with the shirt color, go for light colors for men. Okay, even for women, I believe, go for light colors regardless. You can wear white, you can wear light blue, you can wear light pink. You might be able to wear purple, but go for light colors. Do not wear black. Black looks good, it looks amazing. I had black dress shirt on today, but black is not a formal dress shirt. It's not formal attire, right? It's semi-formal, it's more casual. You cannot wear black to a business meeting. As for pants, wear dress pants. I guess that's unsaid. Do not wear jeans, please. And when it comes to chinos, you could wear some chinos with some shirts, but I would prefer wearing dress pants. Okay. As for the color options in dress pants, you have black, you have gray, you have navy. I guess that's pretty much the basics. So you can wear pinstripes or something, but I would prefer just looking clean, wear solid colors, and have them fitted. Have all the clothes you wear fitted. As for the buttons, you don't want to button the topmost button unless you're wearing a tie. If you are wearing a tie, then you have to button that. Okay, don't leave it open. The button after the topmost button, keep it buttoned. I would prefer keep it buttoned. But if it's too tight, if it's getting too hot, then you might be able to unbutton that, but don't unbutton any further. Okay, you're not gonna look cool by having more buttons open as a guy. Keep them buttoned and keep it looking clean. Even if it looks a bit pappu ya jo bhi, bhai kar lo. Kuch nahi hota, it's just one interview. Moving on, wear a decent formal watch. Alright? Something like this I would say is formal. It can go with formal, it's not perfectly formal, but yeah, you can go with leather strap, you can go with metal strap if it looks good. Have it fitted, like not something that's dangling all over everywhere. Have a decent watch. Okay. As for ties, okay, it's a very complex topic, it's a big topic, so I'm not going to go over ties completely. I'll link a video in the description. I'll have one maybe showing up here, but don't wear a tie. I didn't wear a tie both times, and whatever you do not wear a bow tie. A bow tie is only supposed to be worn with a tuxedo, not to an interview, and especially not just with a dress shirt. Do not wear unnecessary rings or bracelets. A watch is decent. Okay, a ring you can maybe pull off one, maybe two. Okay, one on each hand. As for belts, wear a decent belt that fits you. Don't have it like dangling loose, and have a decent one. Don't have like those weird emblem Gucci belts or something. Don't have those. Have a decent, modest belt. Moving on to the women's part, these are things that my friends told me that going through the interview. Have light or pastel colors. Alright, you can wear a kurti or you can wear formals like normal men, a pant shirt, but you can wear both, but have lighter colors. Do not wear prints unless they're very decent patterns, like very minimalistic patterns, or they're stripes. Okay, even stripes, I believe only minimalistic ones are gonna work, not something over the top which is like striped in every single way. Moving on, it's preferred to wear closed shoes instead of open toes ones. Just a preference, I believe, but this is what my friend told me. But you can definitely wear both. But whatever you do, do not wear joggers. Wear a watch, no fancy bracelets, nothing extra, nothing over the top, and have your hair made if you're not a hijabi. Have it like decent. You guys know this better what to do. I believe my friend said something about like a bun or something, but you guys know better, okay? But have it look decent. Don't look like you just woke up. All right, so that was it for dressing guidelines. Now let's move on to the questions that they ask. Right, so one of their favorite questions to ask is tell us about yourself. Almost every interviewer is going to ask you this question, and this question is pretty much going to shape the rest of your interview. All right, so the way to answer this question is initially you have to brief your academics. Unless you had a very strong academic background, like you're a position holder, don't go much into detail. But for the most of you, okay, just brief your touch over it. Like you are this sort of student during school, this sort of student during college, and you've had this type of mindset with studies. Just brief it, okay. Moving on, talk about your hobbies and interests. Mention meaningful hobbies and interests, but if you don't have much, you can say you used to game or anything as such. It's completely okay. Moving on, talk about your extracurriculars in school and out of school as well. Don't just limit it to school. Like for example, if you want a competition at school for football or badminton or anything, don't just mention those. Try to find some extracurriculars outside of school as well if you have them, such as you've done workshops or you've done courses or anything as such, or you've done a summer camp. Mention those things as well, and go over any achievements and any businesses that you've done. Have stories to back them up. Don't just fabricate some of your own and don't lie. Have actual businesses that you have done. All right. Lastly, talk a bit about your future. Okay, say something, say a goal that you have in mind, say where you see yourself, say that you can mention the path you have, but it's okay if you don't have one right now, but you have to show them that you're ambitious, okay, and you actually want this. Moving on, tell us about your strengths and weaknesses. Now they can ask you one of these each, they can ask you three of these each, they can ask you five of these each, but they will ask you this question at some point in some variation. So say useful and meaningful strengths. Not all strengths were created equal, but mention something that could be useful in like being punctual, being on time. That's the same thing, okay? You catch on to things very quickly, you socialize pretty well. There could be any strengths, okay? There are many different strengths you could have inside you. Okay, you take some time to think of these and have stories to back these up. They might ask you a question regarding all of these. Like if you're punctual, say a story where you were punctual. If you have good team working skills, say have a story where you have a good team working skills and mention that briefly, so they can ask you further about it. All right. When it comes to the weaknesses, again, say your weaknesses smartly in a way. For example, a weakness of mine, which I mentioned, was I overwork myself to the point that it affects other things at times. Okay, and that's a very odd weakness to think of. And they asked me, the interviewer actually asked me in a bit of a mocking way, that is that a weakness? And I said yes, I'll give a story about that. And I did mention a story how I overworked myself at an event to the point that I hadn't eaten. Okay, I had a flight, I had been awake for over 30 hours. I showed them that like these things sort of things can be a weakness. So have a story to back it up, but be a bit smart about it when it comes to your weaknesses. Just don't go overboard, don't seem overconfident. Another question that they do ask is why IBA? You need to know your why. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि भाई पापा ने बहुत था, अम्मी ने बहुत था, चाचू ने बहुत था, या फिर मेरे कोई कज़न यहाँ पढ़ता था उसके वो बड़े जॉब लग गई. These things might be your reasons. It's completely okay, but you can't just mention these things straight up to the interviewer. Okay, your admission is in the hands of this one person, so mention something with a purpose. For example, for me, I mentioned this one part where I find myself in the real estate business and in the media business. So for that, I need a very good networking platform, and to me, IBA has one of the best to offer within Pakistan. That's a good enough reason to choose IBA on its own. Then you can mention it's one of the best for the BBA program in Pakistan. It is the best for BBA in Pakistan. So yeah, you can go over that as well. But don't just go for a classic answer. It's the best university, that's why I'm coming here. Or I've heard amazing things, it has a good social life. These are very, very classic answers everyone will be saying. So you need to find something different, but then you can come back to these classic answers like I did. Moving on, they will ask you most likely, why this degree? Now, why are you going for a BBA? Why are you going for ACF? You need to know your why, all right? And this could be many different things, but the easiest way to answer this question is knowing a bit about the degree beforehand. If they can sense that you have some knowledge of this degree, the course is offered by going on the website, you can just check this out. But if they sense you have some knowledge, they can see that you actually want to pursue it, you're not just coming here because you had another option. Many times, a lot of people cannot get into their desired program, so they go into a different program that they can get admission into, and then they later on transfer. For example, a lot of people come to social science hoping to transfer into BBA or economics to ACF, something as such. That could be a case with you, but don't mention that to the interviewer. If you're giving the interview for social science, you have to sort of show it to them that social science is what you actually want to do. Moving on, the question that's very common, happens in almost every interview, is what is your favorite subject, or what was your favorite subject growing up or in college or in something. Okay? This question seems very light, but it's very important because they will ask you a follow-up question from this one. Okay, like for example, if I say I loved maths in my A levels, which I didn't, okay, but like let's say I say that, they will, okay, they will ask you a follow-up most likely to this, that okay, if we ask you a question regarding derivations, would you be able to answer that? Or linear algebra, you need to be able to answer at that moment. So be careful about the favorite subject you choose. It's not necessary they will ask you something that complex, but have some knowledge. If you're saying favorite subject, don't just lie about it, know something about it. Furthermore, another question they do ask sometimes is, okay, you're applying to BBA, what major do you have in mind? Now that's why you need to know about the degree. You need to know what majors are offered for different degrees. Social science has different ones, BBA has different ones. I'm not sure if the other programs have some, but check those out on the website. I mentioned I'm planning on majoring in sales or marketing. Now this is where my follow-up question came. They asked me what is the difference between sales and marketing. Now if someone is actually serious about pursuing BBA, they will most likely know this answer a bit. They're just gonna check if you are serious or if you're honest. I hopefully did happen to know the answer to this question. I watched this. I watched The Wolf of Wall Street. You kind of get the idea of the difference between sales and marketing over there. But have this in mind, that you will get asked a follow-up question from either your favorite subject or from your major. Another point I forgot to mention is that a friend of mine, the way she did her interview, she got asked what major she had in mind for BBA, and she went about it quite smartly. Since she had knowledge about the BBA program at IBA, she knew that we get to choose our majors in our third year. She mentioned how I'm planning on using the first 2 years to gain experience and then decide between marketing or HR. Gave them an idea that she is serious about this degree, and it's okay. They know you are just coming out of college. You're not quite there yet. None of us are, okay? We're not in our professional careers yet. So don't worry too much about this interview, but keep in mind that you need to show them that you have a path, you have some vision, something that you're seeing yourself getting to. Another question which is almost bound to happen is, what if we do not offer you admission into IBA? Now this question is a very strategic one. If they don't offer you admission to IBA, if you are not on a gap year, mention you will take a gap year to come back to IBA. If you're on one gap year, mention you will take a gap year, apply somewhere else and come back to, and you'll apply back to IBA. If you're on two gap years, there are some people, it's ideally better to say you have applied elsewhere as well as a backup, because now you've spent quite a lot of your time trying to come to IBA. Show them that IBA is your only option. Show them that you want it. Now, what do you offer to IBA, and why should we take you over any other candidate? This is a common question I got asked both times. It's a bit of a trick one because a lot of people don't expect this question to come up. But what do I offer to IBA? You have to go about it strategically, right? Link it to your future. For example, I mentioned I wanted to be a real estate tycoon in the future, and I was planning on becoming famous, sort of. I mean, I can get ahead of myself over here. This is a question you can get ahead of yourself for sure, but just not too much, okay? I do see myself becoming famous in the future. A bit of an odd thing to say, but I could say that. And so I said, now that would in turn make IBA's image better in the future when people see that this person who is successful was a graduate of IBA. You can mention that for sure. You can also mention something like how your skills are gonna help the community at IBA in the societies and stuff like that. For example, I was a photographer. I mentioned how I could be of use to IBA today and all the societies. If you're an event planner, you have planned events before, like I did as well. I mentioned how I could be a key part of every single society at IBA. I mentioned a few societies to brief them, but how I am good at planning events and organizing them. So stuff like this. Now, a question that not everyone will get asked is, why did you take a gap year? Okay, or what did you do in your gap year? What did you learn from your gap year? This is a question that they will ask, if they might ask. Have something over the productive to say. If I'm saying, for example, I took a gap year for IBA, which is very realistic, a lot of people do take a gap year for IBA. That's not it. Like if you were, for example, giving the SAT, okay, over the gap year, you took a gap year just to give the SAT to get into IBA. And now, if you don't have like a near perfect score, you're pretty much dumb. Like you took a whole year off to give that one test. So why didn't you get it? Why didn't you get that high score? So have something or the other productive to mention for this question. Courses, workshop, internships, jobs, businesses, anything you did other than just study or waste time, have that to mention. Now a question again which not a lot of you will be facing but some of you can be is why the switch from science to commerce? Okay, like if you were a pre-med student or a pre-engineering student and now you're coming into IBA, you're most likely switching to a commerce degree, right? Unless you're going for CS or maths. So why that switch? And how are you planning on coping with it? How are you planning on filling that gap of knowledge? Now, this question can be answered in different bunch of different ways. I will write it down because I didn't face this question. That is, you have to be honest and mention your story, but don't seem unsure of that switch. For example, I figured out that medical wasn't for me. Now, I can be honest and say that, but I shouldn't seem unsure. Like, okay, I had no other options, so I was like, commerce, why not? Like, give it a shot. Now that could realistically be what you're going on, that's what's going on in your head, but don't mention that to the interviewer. Okay, you don't have to show them that you're unsure. You have to show them that you are sure about yourself. It could be like you can mention some points, like it could be from seeing your parent or uncle or anyone work in a commerce field. It could be from taking their advices or anything as such. You can mention how that is a reason why you feel like commerce is for you, or you did some course online, or you did some research over the gap year, or over this, you did a job somewhere, an internship, and you figure out this is what you wanted to pursue. How will you cover the gap from science to commerce? This is a very classic question, but you can show them that you are hardworking. Like an answer a friend of mine gave was that science requires hard work, commerce requires hard work. I put my hard work into science for the entirety of my life so far, and I have achieved the results over there. So now, when I'm switching to commerce, I may have a bit of trouble in the start, but I'm resting assured that in the future, I will put in the hard work and understand commerce properly. Or you can mention something such as, I have this brother or cousin or anyone, okay, that were from IBA that have taken commerce, and they're going to teach me the basics of it before university properly starts, because right now you have like 1 or 2 months. You can also mention how you're planning on taking courses or reading some books in the time until university starts. There are many different ways you can answer this question, but you have to be prepared for it. Don't just go blank when they ask that. Lastly, this is usually when your interview has ended. This is when your interview has ended. Do you have any questions for us? That is a very class question, and it is completely okay not to have anything to ask. You don't have to worry about this one as much. But if you do want to ask something, try to seem smart with it. Don't seem dumb. Okay, like a good fun question though, which I asked, I believe, my second time was like, if your interview has so far been going playful, everything has been going good, sab kuch aram chal raha hai, and it's like a bit of a chill vibe. Now you can ask this question. It's a bit of a fun one to ask. You might get an answer, you might not. Is judging, you can, this is the question, okay? Judging by my interview so far, what are some points you would suggest to me that I could improve on or work on so I could do better if there ever is a next time, or if I'm ever in an interview situation again next time? Now this shows that you have that drive in you to better yourself, and you know what, the interview might probably take you because of this one question alone. It's a really good question, but just make sure your interview has been going in a playful manner up until this point. If it's been a very serious, dead manner, then this might not be a safe question to ask. Right, so I guess that wraps up pretty much this video. I hope for this to be an A to Z guide to the interview. Like, this covers pretty much every single thing. Yeah, I guess that's all there is to the interview. Now, these points, I know they might stress you out a bit. They might be a bit overwhelming considering the amount of points I didn't mention. However, these are what's required to become the best. Like, if you have all these points, you will like most likely get the interview done. It's not necessary to follow all in word to word. You might get some wrong, you might do some things differently, you will still get in. So take it a bit easy. It's not as hard as you think it is, and everything will go okay, inshallah. Alright, so best of luck to all of you that are giving the interview. I hope you all get in, and I'll see you at IBA. Last thing I had to mention was that if you have any further questions regarding IBA, you can approach me on my Instagram. I'll have a link somewhere on this video, like the tag, and or in the comments. You can ask any question in the comments at any time. I'll do my best to reply to everyone. So best of luck to all and take care. Allah Hafiz.